I think speed of change. I think pace of change. I think pace of urgency, if that's a thing. What I'm getting from, there's a collective impatience with respect to, the pace and the urgency with which things are changing. And what I see is, perhaps people are taking a longer view of, a tectonic plate view. When you look closer, I think this is one of the most frenetic periods of time we've ever had in terms of rate of change, rate of pace, rate of investment. And I look at my membership in their commitment to, some of it is, yes, they're spending $80 billion a year on content, but this is also an industry that's been spending billions on each other, on acquiring. At this conference, one of the biggest groups of attendees was revealed to be essentially TV ad tech. The degree to which we've invested in TV ad tech, the degree to which my members are investing in dozens of enabling companies and dozens of data-driven companies at all-time high levels, and doing partnerships with them, and the rate with which those companies are acquiring each other. So to me, I'm kind of sitting there thinking, if there is a complaint about speed, then it's a fascination with the speed of tectonic plates and not a look at what's happening on a daily, weekly, monthly basis with respect to just how much investment and energy is going into putting the best ad ecosystem we can together.
So you and I have been talking about measurement and the evolution of currencies for many years now. It's fall 2022. Where are we in that transition?
And we've sped up. I think that one of the things that we've got is we're now looking in a world where we're not assuming that we're going to continue to be in a one or two provider world with respect to measurement and currency. What's being measured is also getting more dynamic, over time. I think that we're going through the if you will, the last mile with a lot of options. And it was interesting. We had so much usage, if you will, this past upfront. We had 6 companies that got so much traction, where so much of their data was used. There's still the ultimate, if you will, transaction. The currency is still happening on the dominant provider, to be expected, in the realm of the timing that we're talking about. But with respect to what's being measured, how dynamic that is, and how much of the funnel is now something that can be measured, I'm thrilled with how things are going. And when we, the VAB, talk about different parts of the funnel or different parts of professional data that can deliver real insights and outcomes, the multiplicity of companies that we're now talking with that didn't exist 5 years ago, that to me is the headline, is just how much, again, frenetic energy is going into all this.
So there's a lot of talk at the moment about the market moving to a marketplace in which all we're measuring is impressions. Mm-hmm. Do you think that would be a good thing?
Ultimately, I think that the multi-screen TV business, actually, frankly, done right, would love how we would come out vis-a-vis the large digital platforms, if you will. And we know that this is coming. We our partners are the marketers. The marketers want it. We want it too. We do, because we think we love how we would look, done right. The key are those two words, done right. And inside of that, the thing that needs to be worked out with respect to, the industry, between the marketers, the media, all the players, frankly, is this idea that an impression is an impression is an impression, that, we have, equivalent, and that simply just is not and can't be. So the question is, how do you go about putting some kind of metrics, putting some kind of comparison data, putting some kind of index together that sits there and captures content, context, quality, duration, things like that. And the VAB has been very active in that. We've been active with the ANA as one of their partners in the cross-media measurement solution. We spoke to them as recently as last week with the types of metadata that we were looking for on the vid that they're putting together, where to us that whole deliverable could fall flat without the kind of descriptive delineating metadata, where a marketer can really understand, what platform type did this come from? What was the duration of the content? What was the duration of the ad? What was the, was this professional? Was this UGC? And these are the metrics that we're working on in, part with the ANA and part with the rest of the industry, and being able to, to satisfy the marketer's knowledge that an impression is not an impression is not an impression. They're not equivalentized. They're real things that need to be measured. The key is developing the numbers and getting the industry from wherever their vantage point is, whatever their point of view is, to say, yes, that's fair.
Are you optimistic that we can arrive at a way of measuring or defining quality and context that is truly scalable and can resonate with buy and sell sides?
I think we have to. I think we have to. I think that everyone realizes that, that for marketers to get the look that they want, for marketers to get the look that we want them to have, we want them to see the impact of, live linear sports plus streaming, plus every other way we deliver content. But we also understand that that's got to be something that has a higher order value and a higher order impact vis-a-vis a classic piece of UGC that may come from TikTok or something like that may be just seconds long and may be made by a 14-year-old. To other 14-year-olds it may be fascinating. To someone who's selling Audis, it's probably not.
And you're optimistic that quality definition can be more than just qualities in the eye of the beholder?
No, absolutely. One of the great things in terms of if you want to talk about cottage industries that have absolutely exploded, is the sophisticated metrics around, and we've used words like attention, we've used dwell time, we've used impact, we've used all different ways, but I could probably quickly name 6 to 8 companies whose one of the great things that they have are very sophisticated metrics at scale, where they're looking at how are these impressions delineated? How are they differentiated? How are the platforms different? How do people respond to different content, be it length, be it live versus non-live? And so the fact is that when we come to the marketplace and we say we have factors and we say we have an index, it will be not something that was with our us staring at the ceiling tile. It'll come from an amalgamation of 6 to 8 of the smartest companies in this space, and us bringing forward an industry solution. Buyer, seller, marketer, everyone can sit there and say, you know what, platforms too, that's fair.
Sean, that's hugely exciting. Final word, what can we expect from the VAB in the fall season?
I think that one of the things that I just talked about is one of the key things that we continue to be obsessed with, and that's putting metrics around that, the quality, the context, the duration, and the other thing that we're going to continue to do is answer every marketer's question with respect to this emerging ecosystem. We get a ton of questions on streaming. And the streaming environment is going to become more competitive. We're going to be one of the resources that people are going to continue to turn to and understand the world SVOD and AVOD. Identity is another piece that we are, as we should be, completely up to our eyeballs in understanding that shift from demography and being able to empower through audience-based buying techniques clients with exactly what they're looking for in terms of here's an unbiased look at how you get the most out of identity, how do you get the most out of streaming. And to us, it's the season of coming 22, 23 is cross-media measurement. And we're not only going to be in the middle of that conversation, we're going to make sure that that conversation's fair.